In an empty hallway, the gray-blue light creates a cold feeling. A girl sits alone by the door, hugging her knees, looking small and lonely. Another woman, with her back turned, asks, "Sitting here alone again, waiting for them to come home? How about you come over to my place and wait?" The girl replies softly, "It's okay, I can just read my novel for a while." The woman says as she enters her home, "But really, no matter what, your uncle, even if you're not his biological child, you're still family, right? He should at least give you a key." The girl doesn't answer, just remains silent. I'm used to this, but when someone else says it out loud, it still feels embarrassing. Novels are wonderful. No matter how difficult things get, there's always a happy ending. And it's well written, too. No wonder it's so popular. The screen displays a read button with the text continue with a prequel and a red exclamation mark warning. The girl wonders, there's a prequel? The content you're looking for does not exist. See, I knew it. I've never heard of the novel The Desperate Lady having a prequel. The girl is still sitting in the same spot, leaning against the wall in the long hallway as night has fallen. She says wearily, "How much longer do I have to wait? I'm so sleepy. Is this a dream?" A little girl with orange hair is sitting and drawing on a piece of paper in the middle of a lush green garden, surrounded by trees and soft sunlight. Yellow leaves fall slowly in the quiet space, creating a dreamlike feeling. The little girl holds a blue crayon and is engrossed in drawing on the white paper in front of her. The little girl's face suddenly becomes startled and tense. Her eyes widen as a loud shout comes from outside. "That pencil and paper are mine." A hand suddenly grabs the little girl's arm, which is holding the crayon, and pulls it back forcefully. A red-haired boy with fierce blue eyes is raising his hand with an expression of extreme anger. He shouts loudly, "Who allowed you to touch my things, you thief?" The blonde girl turns her head with a confused look. Her mouth softly utters, "Brother Oleg," as if begging for mercy. The red-haired boy continues to yell, raising the hand holding the crayon high, "Don't call me brother. You're just a cursed child who brought death to your own parents. Get out of my house now." A boot stomps hard on a piece of paper lying on the ground. Oleg is turning to leave, shouting loudly, "Even if it's just trash that I threw away, you're not allowed to have it." A servant replies, "Yes, young Master Oleg." The blonde girl sits alone on the grass, her head bowed low. A sad and silent atmosphere envelopes everything. The scribbled drawing lies on the ground as rain begins to fall on it. On the paper is a drawing of 3 people, 1 adult and 2 children holding hands, representing a family. It starts to rain heavily. The little girl wonders, is it starting to rain? Chelsea Vianu, granddaughter of Marquis Vianu. When she was 3 years old, both her parents passed away in an accident. Her grandfather sent her to be cared for by his eldest son. So Chelsea went to live with her uncle, Gus Vianu, in his domain. Is she mute? So unlucky. The child is cursed. It might be black magic, a truly bad omen. The little girl was not abused, nor was she threatened. She was simply unwanted, and no one cared for her. Whenever her grandfather visited, her uncle would pretend to care. An elderly man with a dignified air is standing in front of a luxurious carriage. He is Chelsea's grandfather. "Chelsea, do you want to come with me? Do you want to come and live with me? Chelsea, why won't you talk to me? Is it because you don't want to?" Chelsea, her mouth slightly open as if wanting to say something. Hesitation cleared her eyes. The little girl seems about to speak, her expression urgent. "I want to." Chelsea rushes forward, hugging the old man tightly. "Please take me away. Let me leave this place, I beg you." Her grandfather is looking down with a stunned expression, his eyes wide and his brows furrowed. He kneels before Chelsea. "I'm sorry, Chelsea." Chelsea is lifted into her grandfather's arms. "Chelsea, let's go home." In that moment, the morning light was at its brightest. For the first time in 6 years, Chelsea could smell the fragrance of flowers. Chelsea is now older, wearing a nightgown and hugging a teddy bear, standing at the door, eavesdropping on a conversation. She has a worried expression. A voice echoes from the room. "Father should have handed over the management of the family's merchant guild to me. If you had let me help, you wouldn't have worked yourself into this state of illness." He says, "So you can destroy everything the family has built?" The Marquis replies, "Do you think you have any other choice, father? I am your only living son." He gets angry while coughing. Suddenly, They stop when they hear a knock on the door. Chelsea, in a floral nightgown, clutching her teddy bear tightly, her large, round eyes showing worry. She stands at the door and looks up. I heard shouting. Chelsea's grandfather smiles gently, bending down to pat his worried granddaughter's head. Grandpa, are you okay? Don't worry, I'll be fine. Chelsea smiles in relief, her eyes showing reassurance. He continues to pat her head and says gently, Chelsea, go back to bed. Chelsea turns around, hugging her teddy bear, and wishes him good night as she walks away. He also smiles and replies, Good night, Chelsea. Immediately after, he collapses, clutching his chest. A loud, staggering sound is heard. His son shouts in panic from a distance. Father. On a cold, rainy night, Chelsea stands silently by a large window, looking out. Her small, lonely figure contrasts with the dark scenery and the distant castle in the rain. In a large room, faint light shines through a large window. A blonde girl sits silently by the bed, looking down at the motionless man. Not long after, the Marquis passed away, and from then on, no one cared about Chelsea anymore. Her purple eyes are wide, her lips slightly pursed, with tears welling up at the corners of her eyes. Grandpa. Before long, rumors of bad luck and dark magic spread around Chelsea, so her uncle locked her up. As Chelsea watches her grandfather's coffin being carried away, she knows the rain in her heart will never stop. You follow me. Chelsea is now grown up. 6 long years have passed, and she is finally released from her small room. Her uncle is smiling and says, The arranged marriage between our 2 families is still valid, right? That agreement was made when her grandfather was still alive. Just lend me some money to pay off my debts, and you can take Chelsea as a bride for the Habs family immediately. Chelsea stands still, her gaze cold, showing no emotion. A young man with glasses and a stern gaze interrupts with a skeptical tone. She's only 16. You just want to get your hands on the Habs family's fortune. So you're rushing to marry her off like this, aren't you? The marriage was arranged when our families were equals. Now you're selling the women of your house to pay off debts. In my eyes, you are worse than trash. I will never marry a useless woman like her. Please reconsider, young master. Habs. I always knew she was an unwanted girl. Chelsea's uncle and cousin managed the domain so poorly that in just 6 years, they racked up a huge debt. The people rebelled, plunging the family into despair. In a large hall, Chelsea with her shimmering blonde hair kneels alone on the floor, surrounded by an angry crowd filling the balconies. They shout in desperation and outrage. Pay up. Pay me my money. You have to give us an explanation. Execute her. To appease the royal family and the people, Chelsea's uncle used her, who had been locked up for 6 years, as a scapegoat. The cursed girl who brought bad luck, the death of her parents, and even her grandfather. She was the perfect sacrifice for the disaster the domain was facing. A white-haired man looks down at Chelsea with a cold expression. Chelsea looks up, her eyes wide with shock and fear. He says in a heavy tone, To die to atone for your sins is the mercy that God has bestowed upon you. Chelsea was only 16 when she was sentenced to death. Lady Chelsea, it's time to wake up. The blonde girl sits up abruptly, her eyes wide with panic. She places a hand on her neck and mutters, Phew, my head is still here. Chelsea looks down at her hands, her expression still one of shock. She thinks to herself, what was that just now? A dream? It felt too real. A small hand is raised in front of her face. Chelsea stares at it. The hand of a child. In a room filled with morning light, a maid stands near the bed, holding a red dress. She says, Lady Chelsea, Sir Gus told you to wear this dress and wait for him in his study. Chelsea turns her head in surprise, her expression bewildered. Her inner voice cries out, Chelsea, sir. She sees her own reflection in the glass and exclaims, Chelsea steadies herself, her hands on her cheeks in horror. Did I just transmigrate? I've entered the body of Chelsea Viano, the 6-year-old girl. The maid repeats coldly, Did you not hear what I said, lady? Chelsea? Chelsea thinks to herself. After all, Chelsea is still the granddaughter of a marquis. I can overlook the informal speech, but this contemptuous tone is too much. The maid looks at Chelsea with a stern gaze. Sir Oleg told you to change into this dress. Chelsea thinks She doesn't use violence, but for a 6-year-old child, this kind of treatment. The maid says in a demeaning, commanding tone, "You can manage this much on your own, can't you?" It's more suffocating, more pressuring. This is the kind of life she used to live. The little girl looks calm and says clearly, "I can do it." The maid standing by the bed is startled, her lips slightly parted as she lets out a surprised sound. "Huh?" Chelsea tilts her head, her sharp gaze fixed on the maid. She says, "Then you can wait outside." Chelsea sits on the bed, while the maid still stands beside it with a stunned expression. "And remember to close the door when you leave." The maid turns to look back, her gaze strange with a hint of apprehension. She replies softly, "Yes, the door is closed." What is this? Am I imagining things? I've never seen anyone with a gaze so calm, yet so resolute. The maid has now started to sweat, her expression clearly tense. Back in the room, the little girl is sitting on the bed, holding the dress that was given to her. To think that I've transmigrated here, I even have her original memories. It feels as if I experienced them myself. The Vianu family. That's the name of the family the novel's female lead belongs to. So that means I've transmigrated into the prequel part. In the novel, the female lead Isel accidentally learns about her tragic past one day. She used to live in poverty among commoners, but then discovers she is of the noble lineage of the Viano family. She is determined to take revenge on those who harmed her family. In the end, she builds a powerful domain, capturing the hearts of not just 1, 2, but 4 male leads. And I've transmigrated into the character Chelsea Viano, a little girl who died before the story even began. I swear I will avenge everyone, my grandfather, mother, father, and my sister Chelsea. Even though Chelsea is now resting in heaven, I'm sure this will make her smile. So, the end of my life will be the starting point for Isel's glorious story. Chelsea is just treated as a sacrifice by the novel. After all, the little girl is angry, her hands clenched, her face expressing indignation. It's so unfair. She was only mentioned twice in dialogue. She was just a minor character in the narration, but still had to endure a short and lonely life. If I do nothing, I'll have the exact same ending. I'll have no one who cares for me. I'll be completely alone. As if I'd let that happen. The little girl ties her hair up high with a red ribbon, her face showing clear determination and resilience. Even if it means the female lead's story will never begin, I won't sit back and become a stepping stone for someone else. I will become a new Chelsea Viano and survive. The little girl Chelsea in the red dress walks ahead with a confident air, followed by a maid who seems hesitant. An orange rolls across the floor, touching her foot. Ahead, an angry shout is heard. "I said I hate the smell of oranges. You can't do anything right." Oleg is scolding a maid, with spilled oranges nearby. "You clumsy oaf. I'm sorry, young master Oleg. I was wrong. I'm sorry, I'm sorry." The boy kicks hard towards the maid. "Are you the kind of person who can't remember my words unless I teach you a lesson? Well, do you understand now? Is it clear?" The maid replies, "Yes. I was wrong. I understand my mistake, young master Oleg." His foot is raised, ready to kick. Chelsea says she already said she understands. Oleg looks at Chelsea with a surprised expression. He says, "Are you talking to me?" Chelsea, with a tearful, tired, and annoyed look, remains silent. Chelsea bends down, looking directly at the maid who was hit earlier. Her expression is gentle, her eyes sincere. "Are you okay?" Her hand is slightly extended, showing clear concern. The maid is stunned, surprised, and silent. She stares, her lips parted. Suddenly, the maid backs away, her face panicked and angry as she shouts, "Don't touch me, you cursed child." Chelsea's eyes widen in extreme shock. That's right, they all hate me. That explains the behavior of the maid who brought me the dress earlier. She must be afraid of my curse too. Chelsea keeps her head down, saying nothing. Oleg gestures with his hand, and the maid bows her head, obeying him. "Young master Oleg has taught me well," he says smugly. "See, is there something wrong with your head, daring to order me to do something?" Chelsea says calmly, "If the master wants to hit the maid, and the maid wants to be hit, then go ahead. It seems my interference was unnecessary. Sorry for the disturbance." Oleg and a maid behind her are both surprised. Oleg's face flushes with anger, his teeth clenched. He sticks his foot out, causing her to trip. Chelsea falls forward, her hands reaching out to break her fall, her face panicked. She pushes herself up with her hands, groaning softly. As soon as she stands up, Oleg approaches her, looking down challengingly. "What are you acting so arrogant for? You're nothing but an unwanted orphan. Chelsea turns her face to the side, her eyes empty, pained. Oleg raises his hand and touches the red brooch on his chest. Do you know what this is? It's proof that I am the heir to the Marquis Viano. Only the successor is allowed to possess it. My father said that he only adopted you as an act of charity, which makes us your benefactors. So you'd better know your place. Oleg says triumphantly, leaning down to look straight at Chelsea with a cruel voice. Don't forget, it was your evil curse that killed your parents. Anyone who is good to you will also die because of you. She bows her head, just as I thought. He's taking advantage of Chelsea's silence and forbearance to bully her. Oleg's eyes widen in astonishment. What? You should keep your distance from me in the future, Oleg. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold back. Oleg is surprised and asks again, Can't hold back what? Suddenly, Chelsea grabs his shirt and says coldly, don't move. Chelsea raises her hand high, her purple eyes filled with anger, ready to strike. The red-haired boy's eyes widen in astonishment, a scratch mark on his cheek. Two maids stand together, looking wary. One glares, leaning forward clearly shocked. The other's eyes are wide, her mouth agape in surprise. Two other maids also rush over, their faces worried. Oleg grinds his teeth, his eyes burning with rage. He growls, you! He screams, his face red with anger, the veins on his hands bulging. Do you want to die? Immediately, the little girl swings her left hand, delivering a fiery slap. A loud smack echoes, the powerful backhand slap stunning the boy. Oleg's head is knocked to the side. He is dazed. He is still in shock, his cheeks red, his eyes wet, and his lips trembling. Chelsea stands straight, her eyes cold, her hands still in position after the slap. Her voice is firm. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to hold back from hitting you that hard. Oleg's eyes are glistening with tears. He sobs chokedly, boo-hoo. Then he bursts into loud tears, and two maids rush over in alarm. The maid shouts angrily, her eyes glaring at Chelsea. How rude. How could you do something so barbaric? Chelsea looks at her own hand, her gaze cold but tinged with contempt. You call that barbaric? She thinks to herself, it's a pity this 6-year-old body is too weak, otherwise I would have hit him so hard he wouldn't dare to cry anymore. Another maid holds Oleg, shouting angrily. If the Marquis and Sir Gus find out about this, you're dead. From a distance, a man's deep voice rings out. Find out about what? The group turns their heads in shock. A gentleman in formal attire enters, his aura stern. Behind him is a young red-haired man. A maid cries out in alarm. The Marquis. Chelsea is stunned in his silence, memories flooding back. She whispers, choked up, Grandfather. A maid immediately tattles. Lady Chelsea suddenly hit young Master Oleg. Chelsea's eyes widen in horror. What did she just say? The Marquis turns to ask, Chelsea, did you hit someone? Facing the accusing maid, Chelsea is shocked and wary. The maid continues, we were just talking normally with young Master Oleg when Lady Chelsea suddenly rushed in and hit him for no reason. The other maid bows her head, her voice sad. I was also injured trying to protect young Master Oleg. The Marquis frowns slightly, his voice questioning. You said it was for no reason? The red-haired man steps forward, trying to calm the atmosphere. He calls out softly, Father, then continues. Chelsea still hasn't overcome the grief of losing her parents. Her mental state is unstable. With a little more time, she'll be fine again. Don't worry, Father. Chelsea is still young and doesn't understand things. It's normal. I will teach her well. The Marquis sighs, his gaze softening. All right, if you promise so. Then he advises, children need to be taught slowly. Be more patient. I understand. Father, please don't worry. Chelsea bows low before Oleg and the maids. She says seriously, I'm sorry, it was my fault. Everyone is astonished, their eyes wide. What? Chelsea continues in a humble posture. Everything you all said is true. I shouldn't have lost my temper over such a small matter. Oleg stammers in confusion. What did I say that was right? The Marquis looks at Chelsea, his voice gentle. Oh, what did Oleg say? Chelsea says softly but clearly, that I bring bad luck, that I cause my parents' death, and will then cause the death of my loved ones too. Oleg panics, hastily explaining that was because... But Chelsea interrupts, but I've thought about it, and he's right. The Marquis looks at Chelsea in silence. Then he asks, why do you think he's right? Chelsea looks up, her eyes welling with tears. Because if my uncle, the maids, if everyone says so, then it must be true. The room falls silent. No one says a word. The Marquis's expression suddenly changes, and he shouts angrily, Gus, Gus is startled, sweat rolling down his forehead, and forces a smile. F.A. father. Chelsea's mind is unstable, so she often misunderstands, thinking that everyone hates her. Immediately, the Marquis slams his cane on the floor, a loud smack echoing, startling everyone. He shouts angrily, "Open your eyes and look. Does this child look emotionally unstable?" Gus stands frozen, stammering incoherently. Chelsea remains still, her face calm to the point of being cold. In a fit of rage, Gus swings his hand and slaps Oleg hard across the face. The boy tumbles to the floor. Gus yells, "How could you say such things? To your cousin?" Oleg sits on the floor, stammering, Father, I... A maid who had been defending Oleg from the beginning is frozen in shock, horrified. "Yes, sir." The grandfather approaches, his voice emphasizing every word. "Gus, you once promised me you would take good care of Chelsea." Gus trembles upon hearing this. He hastily justifies himself, his hand clutching the badge on his chest. "You said to let her stay with Oleg, so they could have each other for company. That's why I adopted her." "Father, I didn't know about this. It was the servants." The grandfather frowns, his voice deepening with indignation. "Do you have any idea how much rumors like these will ruin the family's reputation? If word that the Viana family has a child with a bad omen reaches the church and the royal palace, do you understand what the consequences will be? Whether it's due to a lack of discipline in the manor, or because the servants are allowed to bully a lady, any of those reasons is enough to prove your incompetence." Gus panics, crying out in regret, "I'm sorry, father. I'll dismiss them all and find better maids to replace them." The hall falls silent. The maid glares, horrified, sweat trickling down her temple, stammering, How can this be?" Oleg's eyes are wide with astonishment, strangely confused. A thought arises in the boy's mind. This is the first time I've seen father with such an expression. His father's hand tightens on the red brooch, identical to Oleg's, the Vianu family's heirloom. In her past life, it was his useless hands that led to the collapse of the Vianu family's fortune. Just then, the grandfather stands behind Chelsea, his gaze fixed on her. The little girl is startled, and a thought flashes through her mind. "Grandfather, since when did you start looking at me like that? Did I have a strange expression just now? Even if I did, there's no other way. I have to use this chance to get him to take me with him." The little girl clutches the hem of her red dress, her eyes shining with pitifulness, and says in a slightly trembling voice, "Marquis, I..." Inside, she's screaming. Is this pitiful enough to be overwhelming? Am I acting this right? Damn it, I can't cry. The grandfather looks at her, his gaze thoughtful. Then he speaks decisively. "Prepare Chelsea's things. She's coming back with me." Chelsea exclaims in her mind, I haven't even had a chance to act yet. "Father, you can't possibly be planning to." The grandfather looks at Chelsea, his voice calm but firm. "From today on, she will live with me." A modern school, a clear blue sky. A scream echoes through the classroom. The class fund is gone. Someone replies, "Was it stolen?" In the classroom, students in white uniforms are in an uproar. Some standing up, others turning to look at each other. A voice commands, "Everyone, look around and see if you can find it." A long-haired girl opens her bag. Her face pales, her eyes stunned. "The missing class fund has appeared in my bag." In the classroom, everyone starts to whisper, "She's an orphan." A blonde girl rests her chin on her hand, her voice contemptuous. "I heard her uncle never gives her any pocket money. Maybe that's why she stole it." "It wasn't me." A male student says indifferently, his gaze disdainful, "You were caught red-handed and you still want to deny it?" She looks like the type of person who would do this. At the teacher's desk, the teacher orders in a stern voice, "Stay after school. You'll have to clean the entire classroom by yourself. Reflect on what you've done." She just remained silent. A sneaker was drenched with water, dripping. The black-haired girl held the wet shoe in her hand, her eyes filled with disappointment. Behind her, two female students jeered. "Looks like you'll have to go home in wet shoes." The blonde girl smirked. I know she did it." She quickly approached the group of 3 female students. Suddenly, she splashed water directly at the blonde girl. Water splattered everywhere, causing the other girl to recoil in shock. The blonde girl shouted angrily, "My shoes, are you crazy?" In the dark hallway, the blonde girl crossed her arms, angrily ordering, "Who do you think you are to do that to me? Teach her a lesson." A voice called out, "Jean." The blonde girl turned around, slightly surprised. "Oomph." Behind, the black-haired girl's body was bruised. She was breathing weakly, but her voice was firm. "You're the one who put the money in my pocket, right? You're also the one who ruined my shoes." Jean sneered, her eyes triumphant. "So what?" The black-haired girl stood up trembling, her voice pained. "Why did you do that?" "Keep hitting her, until she doesn't dare to look at me with that gaze anymore. That night, the black-haired girl returned home. Standing before the door, the night sky was quiet. I'm home, but from inside the house, cold words echoed. Why do we have to raise someone else's child? It's so troublesome. Just have to endure it until she graduates high school. Only one more year left. She opened the door and stepped inside, saying softly, I'm home. In the room, 3 people sat with their backs to her. No one responded. That night, in the dark room, she sat huddled by the window. Her small hand turned on a voice recorder. The indicator light lit up, replaying the recording. You're the one who put the money in my pocket, right? You're also the one who ruined my shoes. In the classroom the next day, she stood in front of the board, holding the voice recorder. Beside her were a teacher and a police officer. The recorder replayed. Why did you do that? The whole class stared in astonishment. The recorder played the shout. Keep hitting her until she doesn't dare to look at me like that anymore. The blonde girl gritted her teeth, her face flushed with anger as she screamed, You bitch. She stood there, her face cold, her hand tightly gripping the voice recorder. That's right, I guess I really am a bitch. Because I've never had anyone to rely on, I was forced to learn how to protect myself. The days of letting that family bully a 6-year-old child are over. I left Gus's mansion about a year earlier than Chelsea. At Gus's mansion, no one cared about Chelsea. She wasn't treated kindly, nor was she fed properly. Only when grandfather visited would they give her decent clothes. Although I had anticipated that grandfather might come when I saw these clothes, I didn't expect the first attempt to be successful. I originally thought I would have to cry about my daily life of mistreatment to convince him to take me away. I didn't expect it to be so easy. However, I know this is just the beginning. Besides, I'm limited by the body of a 6-year-old child. But if I don't fight back, I will die. It's okay. I can do what I have to do to protect myself. I'm used to this life. Suddenly, Chelsea was startled, her mouth agape. Chelsea, are you satisfied now? She turned, feigning innocence. About what? Grandfather looked at her with a sharp, scrutinizing gaze. Before, every time I came, you were always silent, but today is different. It's as if you've become a completely different person. Chelsea. Chelsea was deeply shocked, her mouth wide open. Hey, she thought to herself. It can't be, don't tell me. The man looked straight ahead, his voice sharp and cold. Indeed, it's almost as if you're no longer a 6-year-old child. You don't want to live with Gus? You want me to take you away? You're trying to tell me that they've mistreated you, right? Chelsea was silent, thinking to herself. It feels like he can see right through me. It's as if he's probing, but in a very gentle way. My goal isn't just to leave Gus's mansion. Chelsea truly just wants to live with him. There's another reason, even though Chelsea Viana and I are 2 different souls. But I have completely absorbed her memories and emotions as my own. Grandfather is the only light in both of our lives. He is the only person that neither of us wants to be hated by. Grandfather looked at her with a gentle but pensive gaze. I'm sorry, Chelsea, I shouldn't have said that. You must have suffered a lot. Chelsea was stunned. Only one thought echoed in her mind. Why do my eyes well up with tears just from hearing those words? She lowered her head, her eyes brimming with tears, trying to hold them back. No, grandfather, it's not your fault. Chelsea was suddenly pulled into her grandfather's embrace, his voice gentle. From now on, I will protect you. A hand gently touched Chelsea's cheek. She looked up, shocked, and moved. So don't cry anymore. Chelsea. Through the carriage window, the scenery outside was bright with golden sunlight filtering through the leaves. He was holding Chelsea in his arms, a warm and peaceful moment. So this is what it feels like to be hugged. But you were wrong about one thing. This time, I will be the one to protect you, grandfather. Elsewhere, Gus had a gloomy expression, his jaw clenched. That damn old man. Soon, I will take over the entire territory. Then, we'll see who still dares to lecture me. You should have handed over the family's chamber of commerce to me. Do you think you have any other choice? A nightmare? No, it was more like a warning. The original story takes place in the Kingdom of Lates. When the king fell ill, the queen colluded with the church to seize power. On the outside, the kingdom appeared peaceful, but in the shadows, there were power struggles and conflicts. The nobles who supported the king were all suppressed and eliminated. Among them was the Viano family. The eldest son was incompetent, selfish, and stubborn. The second son and his wife disappeared without a trace, leaving only their daughter, Isu, alive. The third son and his wife, Chelsea's parents, died in a carriage accident, falling off a cliff. Although he managed the territory very well, he couldn't escape his fate. In Chelsea's memory, he will pass away in 2 years. Soon after, Gus became the new marquis, and under him, the family quickly declined, the castle was burned down. Chelsea's memories don't give me much information, but how could it be a coincidence that all the talented members of the family died prematurely one after another? If the marquis title falls into Gus's hands, everything will soon be destroyed. If I want to save him, I must also protect his entire territory. I will replace Gus and become his other choice. Lady Chelsea, are you all right? Chelsea clutched the blanket, asking in a daze. What is happening? Who are you? The maid hugged Chelsea, gently patting the trembling little girl. A gentle smile appeared on her lips. A soft lullaby was heard. Don't be afraid. Nightmare, fly away, fly away. All right, I moved into the Viana mansion yesterday. The maid's face brightened. She introduced herself respectfully. My name is Winnie. I have been assigned as the young lady's personal maid. From now on, I will take care of all your needs. Chelsea lowered her face, her hands clutching the blanket as she replied softly. A personal maid? I don't need one, I can. Suddenly, Winnie hugged Chelsea again, causing the little girl to stare in astonishment. A cheerful voice echoed, Nightmare, fly away, fly away. Chelsea struggled to break free from Winnie's embrace, her face pale as she gasped for breath. She cried out internally. Compared to a nightmare, I'm more afraid of being strangled to death. What the hell? How can a girl be so strong? Could she be an assassin? Chelsea struggled to get out of bed. The maid standing nearby said seriously, Lady Chelsea, please let me help you. The little girl finally got down, but this time she couldn't reach the sink. Chelsea stood on her tiptoes, trying to stretch. The maid continued to plead, Lady Chelsea, please let me help you. While trying, Chelsea lost her balance, tumbled off the stool, and lay sprawled on the floor. The maid cried out in alarm. Chelsea blushed, clenching her fists in frustration as she thought, damn it, how can such a weak body become grandfather's other choice? If I want to strengthen the family, I must investigate the current situation in the territory. The previous Chelsea had no knowledge of that at all. The little girl looked out into the main hall. A man in black, leaning on a sword, stood next to a maid. They were whispering to each other. Chelsea watched quietly, her eyes suspicious. A thought ran through her head. What are they talking about? The way they look at each other makes me feel really uneasy. Outside the brightly lit front hall, a carriage was waiting. A man in a black uniform stood in front of the carriage, speaking up, Lady Chelsea, I am the butler, Nayland. I heard you wish to go shopping in town. Chelsea looked up, her eyes a mixture of suspicion and arrogance, and asked coolly, Is there a problem? The man said, The young lady's dresses have already been custom ordered. But if the young lady insists on going into town, I will gladly take you to buy some ready-made dresses. My only concern is that the ready-made dresses will become useless when the custom-made ones arrive. I fear the Marquis will not approve if he finds out about this. She wondered, what is he trying to say? Insistent, concerned, outdated? Is he implying that I'm stubborn, ignorant, and wasteful? And that grandfather will hate me if he finds out. He's just a butler, yet he wears a uniform. Unlike grandfather, he has a sharp aura and a pressing presence about him. And most importantly, he seems to hate me. Butler Nayland. In my past life, he was actually quite friendly to Chelsea. So why is he now? What made him change like this? If you're done talking, please get in the carriage. He paused slightly, his eyes widening as he exclaimed, You. Chelsea closed her eyes and replied calmly, Yes, let's go. There's something I must order immediately. In the carriage, Chelsea sat opposite the man. She looked small. Chelsea leaned forward and said bluntly, If you have something to say, just say it. After 3 years of living with the Gus family, Lady Chelsea has become like them, stubborn, reckless, not inheriting any qualities from the Marquis or her father. It's truly disappointing. Chelsea looked down, then gave a slight, sarcastic smile. Oomph, she muttered to herself. So that's how it is. This bastard dares to say such things. She kept her voice calm, but her eyes flashed with suppressed anger. Anyway, since we're just buying ready-made things, let's cancel the custom order, shall we? The man was stunned. What did you just say? Then he lowered his voice to explain. But historically, the nobles in this country have always used custom-made items. She asked coldly, Didn't you just say that grandfather wouldn't approve of it? He hesitated, suddenly at a loss for words. I didn't mean that. Chelsea sighed softly, her eyes weary. I understand what you mean. The man awkwardly crossed his arms. Chelsea tilted her head, her voice full of insinuation. Actually, from the very beginning, you had no intention of preparing anything for me. You even thought that grandfather shouldn't have brought me back with him, right? The man's face changed color, sweat breaking out from shock. He just remained silent, without a word of rebuttal. Chelsea concluded internally. He's not denying what I said. You're right, I'm stubborn and reckless. If I hadn't slapped Oleg that day, perhaps grandfather wouldn't have brought me back to the main manor house. But you're wrong about one thing. I'm not like Uncle Gus and Oleg. I know grandfather isn't like other nobles. He used to lead troops in a battle year-round, and now he alone supports the prosperity of the family. He likes to make use of what he has and hates extravagance and waste, right? The man was stunned, exclaiming, How could a 6-year-old child know that? You're not the only one who has taken grandfather's teachings to heart. I remember them clearly too. But I don't want a personal maid, the ones who served me before all treated me with disgust. She looked up, her gaze sharp. And what about you? How long do you intend to maintain this attitude? Suddenly, he shot up and bowed deeply. My apologies, Lady Chelsea. I was prejudiced. I was wrong. The Marquis's teachings are my life's creed. I didn't mean to target you. Young lady, I sincerely apologize. A silence fell. Just as in Chelsea's memories, he is a loyal man who puts the interests of the Marquis and the Vianu family first. Not very subtle, but reliable. He doesn't even hesitate to speak his mind, even to a 6-year-old child. What a straightforward person. It's best not to mind him too much. The man sat down. Chelsea looked up, her voice stern. Don't let this happen again. Yes, my lady. He still sat upright, lost in thought. Then his expression became tense, restless, hesitant, wanting to say something. Chelsea frowned, thinking irritably. I just told him not to do that again. She asked resentfully, What is it now? The man broke into a sweat, stammering. It's not just that. How should I put this? I've never seen a 6-year-old child so intelligent. Lady Chelsea, you have truly opened my eyes. Chelsea smirked slightly. She thought to herself. I thought he was going to say something else. She turned her head to look out the window, the evening light casting a glow on her golden hair. Her gaze was quiet, full of thought. This is just the beginning. The lake town in the Vianu territory. She immediately shot up and rushed towards the carriage door. Her dress billowed. The man called out in alarm. Wait, Lady Chelsea. There is something I must warn you about. Lady Chelsea, you're the most intelligent child I have ever seen. But I must beg you, when you go out, hide that intelligence. Chelsea tilted her head, asking confidently, Why? He was flustered, his eyes worried. There's a reason the Marquis didn't bring you to live with him sooner. In this country, there are some very terrible people. Being too smart might not be a good thing for your safety. He was suddenly startled. Chelsea had disappeared. He exclaimed, Lady Chelsea, where are you? Lady Chelsea, please wait for me. I knew it. Situations like this are always fraught with danger. The Vianu territory has the most developed commerce in the entire country. But because the king suffers from a chronic illness, the queen has seized most of his power. Grandfather refuses to submit to her, so the nobles loyal to the queen have isolated and suppressed him. Keeping the business running smoothly is not an easy task. This is the most prosperous town in our territory. The little girl said excitedly, I want to go see that place. A knight in full armor, his face covered by a helmet, blocked the way. He raised his hand, his voice firm. Butler Nayland, I advise you not to go any further. Butler Nayland turned to look at the knight, his face serious. Why is that? Chelsea wondered. Is something wrong? Has something happened? The knight tilted his head, his voice clearly bewildered. Over there is. Don't tell me. The butler suddenly turned back. Lady Chelsea, let's explore other places. First, the little girl wondered. What's going on? Behind the butler, a terrifying scene appeared. Are they hanging that woman? Her heart pounded. Memories from Chelsea's past life flashed relentlessly. Her face was dazed. The butler called out loudly, Lady Chelsea. Right after that, the little girl fainted. In the carriage, the butler asked if the young lady was feeling better. The little girl asked what had happened to that woman. He explained, it's because the witch hunts have become more severe in the territory. On the night of the full moon each month, the church hunts down witches who bring bad omens. This is to ensure the safety and stability of the territory. Lady Chelsea, please don't be afraid. Chelsea looked up, thinking to herself, this man is a terrible liar. You mean someone is hanged every month? Butler Nayland was sitting on the long seat. He bowed his head and answered briefly. Basically, yes. She concluded, so this isn't a witch hunt. It's the queen using the church to show off her power to threaten grandfather. Butler Nayland was immediately stunned. He exclaimed in disbelief, Lady Chelsea, you understand this as well? She said bluntly. Yes, so speak to me directly. Don't worry that I'll be scared and don't lie. He slowly explained. These ploys are to force the Marquis to submit, but every time he takes one step back, they advance 10 steps. Just like that, they eventually took over all the Vianu family's businesses and territory. She asked worriedly, but today isn't a full moon? It's not a witch hunt day, so why is the church? Nalan bowed his head low, his eyes grave. He only whispered, Lady Chelsea. The church heard that the Vianu family's granddaughter had returned to the estate, so they deliberately moved the witch. Hunt forward. The soldier said, Lady Chelsea is the daughter of Sir William. Sir William caused trouble for the church when he was alive, so they hate him very much. They are deliberately targeting Lady Chelsea. What's worse is that they already executed one woman, but when they heard Lady Chelsea was visiting, they captured another one. They've taken the woman's daughter and are waiting for Lady Chelsea to arrive to execute her right in front of her. Butler Nalan had an angry expression, his eyebrows furrowed, his eyes wide. He shouted, You mean there's a girl being held for execution right now? The soldier spoke up. Butler Nalan, if you want to save her, I can take a few men and... Nalan cut him off decisively. No, he said, half the people in our territory believe in God. If we oppose the church, we will become the enemy. Their real purpose is to force the Marquis to act. But if we do nothing, that girl will surely die. The final scene shows Nalan and the soldier standing together in the dim light. Nalan concluded, his voice low. There's no way to stop this. Either way, we can't stay here any longer. I will take Lady Chelsea home first and report to the Marquis. Chelsea replied from inside the carriage, questioning, What's the point of telling grandfather when nothing can be done? Want to just make him angry and worsen his illness? Butler Nalan whipped around, his face astonished. Lady Chelsea, she spoke softly. Butler Nalan, I want to ask you for a favor. Lady Chelsea, I still think this is too dangerous. The church is too arrogant. It's better not to provoke them. A thought ran through her head. Nalan is wrong again. It's not us provoking them, but them provoking us. Seth, the priest of the Orthodox Church, he said with a solemn look. I heard the Viana granddaughter has returned. I came here to ask you to show reverence for the sign of God. Chelsea gritted her teeth, her eyes flashing with anger. She thought to herself with a furious expression, he really has a problem with his head. Calling the hanging of a little girl a sign of God, and even making a 6-year-old child revere it. Butler Nalan looked at Chelsea, calling softly. Lady Chelsea, she said loudly, like a truly curious child. A sign of God? Wow, Chelsea wants to see it. Butler Nalan froze. He could only utter, Huh. Priest Seth's face became clearer. He smiled with satisfaction. His eyes slightly narrowed in a smug look. He said, That's wonderful then. Please, allow me to lead the way for Lady Viana. The little girl paused slightly, and she also gave him her hand to be led. She said with the innocence of her age, Thank you, priest. Chelsea is very much looking forward to it. Looking down from the execution platform, a woman had a noose around her neck. Chelsea looked up, her face pale, her whole body tense. She thought, I prepare myself, but it's still shocking. The priest turned to her with a triumphant smile, asking in a faintly gentle voice, Lady Chelsea, are you all right? Chelsea silently remarked, Look at that gloating expression. Just as I expected, he wants to scare me. She immediately let go of his hand. Chelsea instantly pointed towards the platform, her voice excited. Is that the witch? The priest froze, his expression dazed. Huh? He glanced at Chelsea, sweat beading on his temple as he asked harshly, Lady Chelsea, are you not afraid? Chelsea tilted her head and smiled, her eyes mischievous. Oomph, do you want Chelsea to be scared? The priest frowned. What did you just say? Chelsea smiled brightly. What Chelsea means is that hunting evil is justice. It is God's grace. Since it is God's grace, why should I be afraid? The corner of his mouth lifted. That's right. He raised his hand to give an order. Then bring out the other witch as well. Butler Nalan was startled and froze. In front of the crowd, the priest interjected. Let the young lady of Vianu witness this sacred blessing. Chelsea forced a smile. A church soldier stood by the gallows, while the girl with braids knelt on the ground. In the crowd, someone whispered, There are 2 of them this time? Another replied, They're the ones who brought misfortune to this town. Isn't that scary? It's a good thing the priest protected the town from these witches. From behind, Chelsea looked straight at the gallows, her hair blowing gently. She silently reassured herself, Don't cry anymore. I won't let them hang you. Chelsea looked up, asking the priest with a curious gaze, Chelsea wonders, how do you know they are witches? The priest smirked and replied, you don't need to worry about that. He held up a stack of papers in front of everyone. We have confiscated the evidence. This girl has never had a formal education, yet she can write so many poems. This is proof that she made a deal with the devil for intelligence. Nayland asked curtly, is that all? The priest retorted, isn't that enough? Then let's add the testimony of this servant of God. Or are you doubting my judgment? The crowd behind them whispered. That's right. The priest was chosen by God to be his servant. His words and actions are all by God's command. How could he lie? If our businesses are failing, who else could it be but the witches? Chelsea smiled innocently. Of course, Chelsea also believes she must be a witch. But according to the holy scriptures passed down in the church, burning is the only way to identify a witch. A true witch is one who survives the trial. By fire. Whoever is not burned to death must have a cross driven into their chest and be buried so they can never rise again. The priest tilted his chin slightly in defiance. So what? Chelsea took a step forward. Because Chelsea is still young, there's something I still don't understand. Is it because of you that no witches have been caught until now? Could it be that a witch hunt has to be held every month because you don't follow the holy scriptures properly to destroy the witches? The priest flinched, his voice harsh. What did you just say? Some of the townspeople looked at each other, confused, then nodded. That makes sense. The little girl is right. Butler Nayland stepped forward, his voice firm. That's right. We should burn her to see for ourselves. Agreed. According to the holy scriptures, only the one who does not burn to death is a true witch. The priest, startled, shouted loudly, his face flushed red. No, the ritual of burning at the stake has not been performed for 100 years. Nayland leaned in close. Are you afraid the accused which will die immediately in the fire? The priest gritted his teeth, He cursed inwardly. Nayland, you bastard. Then the priest raised his hand and ordered, Our Lord is merciful. Remove her gag and give her a chance to prove her innocence. If she can clearly explain the origin of her wisdom, she will have a chance to be forgiven. The girl's gag was removed. She gasped for air, whispering, trembling. She said while crying, I don't know how to write poetry. I just wanted to write down my feelings. I'm sorry. I won't write anything recklessly again. I'm sorry. The priest looked down and declared, Since she is repentant, we will grant her forgiveness. The soldier by the post removed the noose. He replied, Understood. The girl stammered in surprise. I'm being released? The priest said, I assume you two have no further objections. Since the witch has promised not to use the wisdom bestowed by the devil, I can give her a chance to be forgiven and spare her life. As long as she agrees to enter a convent and dedicate her life to serving the Lord, repenting for her sins. He thought to himself, let's end it here. I'll let you get away with it this time. Chelsea lunged forward, her face filled with indignation. She shouted loudly, How can this be? She is a witch. How can you believe the words of a witch? He stuck his foot out, tripping her. What did you just say? Chelsea knelt on the ground, shouting loudly, her voice trembling but insistent. She is a witch. How can you believe the words of a witch? Chelsea suddenly rushed towards the butler. She screamed, her voice sounding genuinely terrified. I'm so scared. You can't let her go. Nayland awkwardly and stiffly put his arms around Chelsea, acting. He soothed her in a falsely gentle voice. It's all right, Lady Chelsea. Don't be afraid. Don't cry. The priest watched the scene with a bewildered expression, a thought echoing in his mind. Weren't they here to save the girl? He roared, his voice full of frustration. You don't want to save her, but I can't hang her either. What in the world do you want? Chelsea stepped before the crowd, her fists clenched. She yelled, Burn her, we must burn her. That is the only way to know if she is truly a witch. I will only feel safe after she is burned. At the stake. The old priest angrily retorted immediately, We cannot burn her. He tried to maintain his dignity, continuing, The Lord is full of mercy, willing to forgive even a witch. Burning at the stake is too cruel. It has long been abolished. Chelsea clung tightly to Nayland's arm, her face panicked. Nayland stood protectively in front of her, one hand raised, questioning loudly. So isn't it because you're afraid she will die the moment she is thrown into the fire? If she really dies, how will you explain it, High Priest? Or will you admit that the church has been executing innocent girls every month? The priest gritted his teeth, his eyes narrowed, his face filled with anger as he heard the butler say, What will your followers think? He muttered furiously, You. The priest lowered his voice, but it was laced with a threat. Sir Nalan, watch your words. Are you determined to prove me wrong, even if it means condemning an innocent girl? Meanwhile, the accused girl trembled and cried out as she was being led away. I am not a witch. I am truly innocent. Sir Nalan, please spare me. I beg you. With desperate eyes, she sobbed. I thought you were as righteous as your master. The priest tilted his head to look at Nalan, his questioning voice full of insinuation. A righteous gentleman like you would do something so cruel? What about your faith in the Vienna doctrine you have always been loyal to? Behind the butler, Chelsea clung tightly. Didn't Uncle Nalan promise to do everything to protect Chelsea? Chelsea is so scared. He extended his arm forcefully, his voice resolute. Do you hear me? Lady Chelsea is frightened. Bring the firewood, build the pyre now. The priest's eyes widened. He cried out in horror. What is this? The order rang out resoundingly. Burn her. The girl looked down, her eyes wet with tears, exclaiming in horror. How can this be? You saved me from being hanged, only to burn me at the stake? Sir Nalan, have you gone mad? You will regret today's decision. He leaned close, his eyes hardening, his voice low. There are rumors that your little lady brings misfortune and is a witch herself. Aren't you afraid the church will retaliate for daring to oppose me? Chelsea affirmed resolutely. Chelsea is not a witch. The old priest looked at the little girl with a gaze of half pity, half mockery. He gave a faint smile. Lady Chelsea, that is not something that can be proven with word alone. Chelsea lowered her head, her hair covering half her face. A vague smile appearing at the corner of her lips, she answered softly. No, Chelsea can prove it. Chelsea will also undergo the trial by fire. The old priest, horrified, broke into a sweat and shouted, What did you just say? If Chelsea dies in the fire, it will prove that Chelsea is not a witch. And from now on, no one is allowed to say Chelsea brings misfortune. The priest turned sharply to Nalan, his face tense. Sir, aren't you going to stop the child? Nalan was silent. Then he swung his arm forcefully, shouting loudly, as expected of a lady of House Vienna. She is willing to sacrifice herself for the family's honor. Immediately after, the priest showed clear panic, yelling, Have you all gone mad? Chelsea walked up the wooden steps leading to the pyre. The girl tied to the stake panicked, turned, and cried out, But Lady Chelsea, I am not a witch, I want to live. Chelsea whispered, I know. The other girl was astonished. Huh? Don't be afraid. I am here with you. The girl's eyes widened, stunned into silence. Nalan raised a blazing torch high, his voice echoing. If you please. In the crimson twilight, Nalan held the torch high before the priest, declaring, I invite the esteemed priest to light the fire himself and show us his miracle. Amidst the tense atmosphere, Nalan gave a cold smile and a soft chuckle. The priest, sweating, remained silent in confusion. Then he spun around, waved his hand to give an order, his voice sarcastic. If your little lady desires death so much, I will grant it to her. A knight stepped forward, holding a blazing torch. The torch neared the pile of wood at the foot of the pyre. The bound girl watched the flame, her face trembling in terror. Behind her, Chelsea watched intently, her gaze tense. The pyre stood tall. The knight paused, exclaiming in surprise. He turned to report, his voice grave. Your reverence, the wood won't catch fire. The priest, stunned, shouted, What? He strode forward, snatching the torch from the knight's hand. Give it to me. The old man stared at the still-burning torch. Sweat poured down his face. This torch. Chelsea peeked her head over the wooden barrier, her eyes wide. She asked the priest below in a polite but clear voice, Your reverence, is something wrong? The priest started and spun around, his expression panicked. She was silent, her hand on her chin, just staring. The priest's eyes twitched in shock. He hesitated for a moment, then backed down. No, there's no problem. Butler Nalan called out formally, High priest. Nalan's voice was low and sarcastic. If the girl dies, she is innocent, but if she doesn't, she is a witch. That is what you claim to be the Lord's will. But if the pyre cannot be lit, what does that mean? The priest declared resolutely that if dry wood could not catch fire despite a strong flame, it must be the Lord's grace to set them free. Nalan stood opposite him, a sarcastic smirk on his lips. Ha, the Lord's grace again? The priest retorted harshly, Watch your tone. It is the Lord's protection that has allowed them to live. You mean to say, not only are they not witches, but they are favored by the Lord. The priest started, his eyes wide with astonishment. He said in a heavy voice, "That is correct." Butler Nayland turned, raised his hand, and shouted to the crowd. Did everyone hear that? Lady Chelsea is one favored by the Lord. Anyone who dares say she brings misfortune will suffer divine punishment. The town erupted in cheers. Long live Lady Chelsea. Hallelujah! Nayland smiled and looked at the priest. Ha, mistaking one favored by the Lord for a witch. You are truly foolish, high priest. Repent sincerely, lest you incur the Lord's wrath. The old man grunted in annoyance. TSK. He handed the torch to the butler. Take it. I will remember this, Sir Nayland. Papers scattered in the wind as the priest turned to leave. He threw back a warning. Make sure you won't regret this. Nayland turned to the soldier, speaking quietly, dispersed the crowd, and moved the firewood to the manor. The soldier replied, Yes, sir. His voice continued. As for that woman, arrange a proper burial. In the wooden hut, the girl with braids hugged her skirt and sank to the floor, her eyes still wet. I'm still alive. The braided girl looked at her hands, muttering in bewilderment. Could it be that I was truly chosen by the Lord, that I am truly under his protection? In the wooden hut, the little girl asked bluntly, Do you really believe there's a God in this world, one who would let such cruel things happen? The girl spoke up, Lady Chelsea. If it wasn't for the Lord's grace, why didn't the pyre catch fire? Why weren't we burned? The little lady replied calmly, In this world, there are no gods, nor are there witches. She continued, But there are devils. It's just that most of them wear human skin, pretending to live by our standards. And it is those who wear masks that are the devils. The braided girl looked up, her expression stunned, saying who would want to see themselves dangling from a noose. She turned sideways, her eyes still moist but calmer, asking that even if that were true, what could we do? She said she was not like Lady Chelsea, just an ordinary person with no power to resist the church. She bowed her head, clutching her hands to her chest, her whole body trembling. Thank you for saving me today. If it weren't for Chelsea, her cowardly self would have accepted her fate and died. The little girl stood silently, her long hair falling, saying nothing. A hand picked up a stack of papers from the steps, with the words that you are the girl favored by the Lord, and now you have the ability to influence countless people around you. The braided girl cried out in alarm. That's my diary, but I swore I wouldn't write anymore. Chelsea bowed her head, her voice calm. Don't misunderstand. What I decide to do has nothing to do with you. To be blunt, I protect this domain for my own benefit, for my life and his. The braided girl's face showed a flicker of confusion as Chelsea continued. I saved you because it suited my purpose. The church will still target you, and you will have to keep bowing your head, even if it means they continue their killing. As for me, stopping them is a matter of survival. I will not tolerate anyone who stands in my way. I'm not a witch, nor am I an ordinary commoner. Even if the name Chelsea de Vienna is forever known as that of villain, I will make this domain so strong that no one will dare challenge it. Finally, she leaned over and adjusted her skirt. No matter how cowardly you are, at least fight to the end with everything you have. At least it gives us something worth protecting and a reason to live. Chelsea left. The braided girl knelt alone, reaching a hand toward the scattered papers on the ground, looking on in silence. In the carriage, Nayland sat with his arms crossed next to a soldier in armor. The soldier asked, Sir Nayland, what on earth happened today? Anyway, Nayland closed his eyes, silent. Then a flashback appeared. Earlier, you want me to prepare the firewood for the pyre and wet it with water? The little girl replied, Yes. Nayland asked, What do you think? The soldier was bewildered. Huh? Me? Sir, if I knew, I wouldn't have to ask. In this world, everyone knows that damp wood cannot catch fire. Vienna has a developed forestry industry, and the common pine is as dark as charcoal. If dark firewood is soaked in water, it is very difficult to detect without looking closely. Even if others didn't realize the wood was wet, the high priest must have. What I don't understand is why he didn't expose our plan. Because he couldn't. A witch cannot be burned to death. If the high priest had replaced the wet wood and burned the girl to death, it would prove he had made a false accusation, and at the same time, make the populace doubt his judgment. The faith of the people is the key to the church's influence. The church cannot let them have doubts, especially when the one being burned is the Marquis's granddaughter. The incident would spread throughout the kingdom. To avoid that scenario, they stopped using burning as a punishment. Therefore, even knowing the trick, the high priest was forced to keep his mouth shut and pretend to cooperate. Butler Nayland and the soldier were pensive. The soldier turned and whispered to Nayland, "Sir Nayland, it seems to me as if Lady Chelsea had everything calculated from beginning to end." Butler Nayland shouted angrily, "Are you a fool? That child is only 6 years old. How could she have planned all of this?" The soldier stammered, but he calmed down, affirming, "It was all my arrangement. It has nothing to do with Lady Chelsea." The soldier was stunned. "Huh, no disrespect, but that's hard to believe, sir," Nayland said harshly. "You'd believe a 6-year-old child came up with it and not me?" The soldier had to concede, "Yes, if you say so." In another corner, Chelsea yawned sleepily. Nayland instructed, "In any case, this has nothing to do with Lady Chelsea. Is that clear?" The soldier replied, "I understand, but what if the Marquis asks?" Nayland said, "Of course, we must report the truth to him. Tell him that the House of Vienna has produced a peerless genius." A red-haired man sat in an armchair, looking at the person standing, and asked, "What's the situation?" The assistant, wearing a monocle, had a tense expression. The high priest went to the lakeside town as planned, but Nayland saved the girl who was supposed to be hanged, and now the townspeople are hailing Lady Chelsea and that girl as favored by the Lord. Gus exclaimed, "What?" Furthermore, I'm afraid this has tied the church's hands. We can no longer use the witch hunts to pressure the Marquis. Gus slammed his fist on the table, furious. "Damn it." The assistant continued, "We informed the church as soon as Lady Chelsea left the manor. Yet they managed to prepare to this extent in less than a day, as if someone had set a trap from the start." "What do you mean? Are you saying the church betrayed me and colluded with my father?" He began to speak. "The high priest told me, if Sir Gus does not prove his worth, he will be eliminated just like his brothers before him." 3 maids were chatting in the bright corridor of the mansion. "The news has spread throughout the town. The Marquis must know by now." Another chimed in, "That's not all. I heard that today the church mistook a girl favored by the Lord for a witch and nearly hanged her." The other replied, "I heard that Sir Nayland and Lady Chelsea saved her." "Oh my goodness, did something like that really happen?" Doris exclaimed in admiration. "Sir Nayland and Lady Chelsea are truly extraordinary. When the Marquis hears about this, he will surely be proud." Chelsea walked through the house, humming happily. In her imagination, her grandfather turned around, smiling gently. "Chelsea, you did very well today. What would you like as a reward?" Chelsea shyly brought a hand to her lips. I don't wish for anything. Just being able to live happily with you is enough." Grandfather stood up abruptly, his expression stern, his voice firm. "Absolutely not. I will not treat my beloved granddaughter poorly. Guards, strip Gus and Oleg of their inheritance emblems. I will give them to Chelsea. From now on, you will help me manage the family's affairs, both large and small." Chelsea cupped her cheeks, embarrassed. "Oh, grandfather, that's too much. My uncle and his family will be angry." At night, the little girl tossed and turned in bed, giggling. "Hee." She mumbled, "I really shouldn't let my imagination run wild like this." She buried her face deeper into the pillow, her cheeks flushed, trembling slightly with excitement. "But I still can't help but feel excited." The scene changes to the study. The master of the house has a stern face. He shouts, "I don't recall giving you permission to do that, Nayland." Nayland knelt on one knee, his hand on his chest, bowing his head. "My sincerest apologies, my lord. Your subordinate has made a grave error. I should have advised the young lady to stay away from it. Do you understand? You just played a very dangerous game?" Nayland replied, "I understand, but it isn't a long time since I felt so exhilarated." "What do you mean?" "I remember the days when I traveled with you everywhere, doing what we wanted, saving who we wanted. The young lady's courage today reminded me of that time." "So you mean to say our current life is suffocating and unpleasant?" "I understand your difficulties, and I understand that you yourself are even more constrained than I am." The master was silent. The atmosphere grew quiet. "You have a silver tongue. As the head of the family, I must be especially cautious of all possible consequences. Surely you understand my worries. Saving one life will cause the enemy to kill 10 in retaliation. It has always been this way from the beginning. I fear they will not let this go easily. You are worried they will retaliate by harming the young lady. Please do not worry. I have quashed all the rumors and affirmed that this matter has nothing to do with Lady Chelsea. But the church will want to find a scapegoat to vent their anger. Courage always comes at a price. Let's leak some rumors that I had planned this incident for a long time." The butler was startled. "You intend to do that?" He affirmed resolutely. "As the head of the family, I will bear all the consequences. The next morning, Chelsea lay in bed, her eyes fluttering open, raising a hand to rub them. She mumbled, "Is it morning already?" Chelsea sat up in the large bed, flanked by long lines of maids in 2 rows. A chorus of greetings rang out. "Good morning, Lady Chelsea." Chelsea shot up, her face panicked, clutching the blanket and shouting, "What is this?" The door opened, and Nayland placed a hand on his chest and bowed. "Did you sleep well, my lady?" She said loudly, "What is going on? Did you send a crowd of servants to monitor me? Or something?" A line of maids stood behind him. Nayland gestured with his hand to introduce them. "A misunderstanding, Lady Chelsea. They are here to serve you. These are the finest maids in the manor. You may choose any one of them to be your personal maid. Your custom-ordered items have been completed and will be delivered this afternoon. I personally placed the order under the Marquis's supervision. If you need or want anything, just say the word, and I will do my best to fulfill it. Do you understand me, my lady?" Chelsea shrank back, her expression bewildered. "I understand, but are you sure you haven't taken the wrong medicine or something?" The man smiled faintly. The little girl thought to herself, "Yesterday I was scolded for being stubborn and reckless. Yet today I'm being treated so specially. He must have gone mad. Even so, his face is very gentle. The Marquis also instructed me to give this to you, my lady." The box opened. Inside was a golden emblem set with a red gem. The little girl was stunned. "This is the inheritance emblem." She lifted the emblem to examine it. The Viana inheritance emblem symbolized the right to inherit the domain and title of the Vianu family. The gem showed that the engraved name was not Chelsea, but William. The man said, "It belonged to your father." Sir William was the head of the line of succession, the pride of the Vianu family. The head of the line of succession is the one who receives the title of Marquis. After William's passing, Gus and his son took his place as first in line. The butler said respectfully, "Allow me to put on for you, my lady." Chelsea replied immediately, "I refuse." Nayland froze, his face surprised. "You refuse?" Chelsea closed the drawer. "It has no practical use. It's better to keep it as a memento. Please tell grandfather that I will rely on my own abilities and will earn an emblem with my own name engraved on it." She curtsied and walked quickly to the door. "If there's nothing else, I will go into town. I have many things to do." Nayland and the line of maids stood dumbfounded, silent. "Ah, Lady Chelsea can do as she pleases. Did you think I would say that?" A hand grabbed the hem of Chelsea's dress and yanked. Hard. Chelsea was pulled back, her face panicked as she cried out, "What are you doing, Butler Nayland? Let me go." The man replied with a calm smile, "I told the Marquis that the young lady possesses a once-in-a-century talent that needs to be nurtured." A bald, bespectacled teacher holding a book walked in, smiling. "The Marquis has urgently summoned the best teacher in the domain." He bowed. "Lady Chelsea, please become my companion in knowledge." Chelsea's eyes widened as she cried out, "Oh, so bald." Chelsea roared in frustration. "I accomplished such a great feat yesterday, and this is how you repay me? I'm only 6 years old." Nayland grabbed her by the collar and dragged her in front of a tall stack of books, while the teacher nodded, holding the curriculum. Nayland said, "A 6-year-old child starts with the basic etiquette of Viano." The teacher chimed in, "Just leave it to me." Whisper spread, "Poor Lady Chelsea. Butler Nayland is making her study day and night." Before, Chelsea would rub her head against her grandfather's shoulder, whining, "Grandfather, Chelsea wants to go into town." Grandfather would stroke her head, replying gently, "You should finish your studies first, my little girl." The maids grumbled, "She's only 6 years old. What's wrong with wanting to play at that age?" I heard Lady Chelsea asked for an emblem of her own. What? An emblem with a personal name means that person is qualified to inherit the title of Marquis. In the wide corridor, a man's footsteps approached. The maids continued, "Lady Chelsea is very bold. But isn't that impossible for a girl? If that weren't the case, Sir Gus must be sweating bullets. Isn't that right? If it weren't for the sudden deaths of the 2 young masters, Sir Gus would never have been considered for succession." The door burst open, and Chelsea stood in the doorway holding a book, surprised. 2 maids hurriedly bowed and begged before Gus, "Please have mercy, Sir Gus. We sincerely apologize. We were not informed of your visit today." Gus rolled up his sleeves, his face scowling. "It seems the servants in my father's mansion are as useless as my own. What right does he have to tell me I don't know how to manage my own people? I will definitely fire you. Get out." Chelsea observed silently, a thought flashing through her mind, like father, like son, what a disaster. If only there was a way to make them see reason. Then she turned to the teacher and said calmly, "Sir, I have mastered today's lesson. May I have permission to finish early?" Chelsea walked closer to the sofa. The red-haired boy sitting there looked up at her. The boy smirked. "Oh, you're here? Long time no see. I see you finally started your studies, regardless of your position." Chelsea's eyes turned cold. She clutched her book tightly and called his name directly, Oleg Viano. Chelsea's thoughts echoed. "Why are you here?" The boy replied, "You've only lived here for 2 days, and you're already causing trouble with the church." Chelsea retorted immediately, "So what? I can't?" Oleg smiled confidently, tilting his head. "My father already told me. He said you displeased the church when you went to town to shop." She thought to herself, "Your father certainly knows how to twist words." Oleg pointed a finger admonishingly, his expression serious. "I advise you to behave yourself properly. Don't cause any more trouble for the family." "Speaking of causing trouble, how can I compare to you and your father?" Oleg jumped up angrily, his fists clenched. "What did you just say?" In his agitation, he knocked a doll onto the floor. The doll fell with a thud in front of the chair. Oleg stood frozen, his face dark, while Chelsea remained calm, standing opposite him. A blonde doll in a cloth bag tied with a yellow bow, looking brand new and very carefully wrapped. The little girl wondered, "A doll? It looks new and is packaged so carefully. It can't be, is it what I think it is?" Oleg was a little flustered, holding up the doll bag, loudly justifying himself. "Don't misunderstand. I just heard people talking about this doll, so I bought it to see if it was worth a fuss." Nayland opened the door, stepped in, looked down at them both, and said calmly, "Oh, young Master Oleg, it seems you have brought a gift for the young Lady Chelsea." Young Master Oleg bought it for the young lady at the market this morning. Oleg retorted in annoyance, his hand still clutching the bag. "It's because grandfather said I have to apologize before I'm allowed to enter the main building again." Chelsea narrowed her eyes, her expression indifferent, but she understood the situation, so that's what this is about. Butler Nayland stood between them, scratching his head. "Young Master Oleg, that kind of apology won't have any effect." Oleg rushed forward in frustration, shoving the doll package into Chelsea's hands. "Fine, I've apologized, so accept it. Take it. Let's get along from now on." Just as expected, you don't even know how to apologize properly. Chelsea turned and walked away, carrying the doll package, with a surprised Nayland behind her. Oleg frowned as he watched her and asked, "What are you planning to do?" Chelsea walked over to the trash can and said calmly, "Since you gave it to me, doing this should be fine, right?" Oleg leaned forward, his eyes filled with anticipation as he asked softly, "So you'll accept it then?" Chelsea threw the doll directly into the trash can. Butler Nayland cried out in alarm, "Young Lady Chelsea, that's the trash can." Oleg was startled. "Huh?" Chelsea turned around, her eyes cold and bright. "Look closely, Oleg. That is my answer. In my world, there is no rule that forces someone to accept an apology. I'm leaving now. Tomorrow I will make up for the lessons I missed." From behind, the red-haired boy watched as the little girl opened the door. He stammered, trying to hold her back. "Wait, if you don't accept it, then I..." She went to the door, but almost bumped into someone who was walking in. Gus yelled, angrily swinging his hand and slapping the boy, "You useless thing." The boy's head was knocked to the side from the blow.